The parking lot at Riverside Shopping Center was packed on a Saturday afternoon, the kind of day where finding a spot felt like winning the lottery. Marcus had finally squeezed his silver Honda Civic into a tight space between a massive SUV and a luxury sedan, a cream-colored Mercedes with a vanity plate that read Karen's One. He should have known. Marcus turned off the engine and grabbed his shopping list, mentally preparing himself for the home improvement store gauntlet ahead. He'd been meaning to repaint the garage for months, and his wife had finally threatened to do it herself if he didn't get it done by next weekend. So here he was. On a Saturday he could have spent literally anywhere else. He was halfway out of his car when he heard it. A sound like someone dragging a key along metal. Not quite a scrape, more of a deliberate grinding noise. Marcus froze mid-exit, 1 foot on the asphalt. His eyes immediately shot to his driver's side door. A woman was walking away, her hand still raised, a designer purse swinging from her other arm. She was in her 50s, blonde hair pulled back so tightly it looked painful, wearing white athletic wear that probably cost more than Marcus made in a week. She didn't look back, didn't acknowledge him. Just kept walking toward the store entrance with the confidence of someone who'd never had to apologize for anything in her life. "Excuse me," Marcus called out, his voice louder than he intended. "Did you just—" The woman stopped, turned. Her face arranged itself into an expression of perfect confusion, eyebrows raised, mouth forming a small O of false innocence. "Me?" she said, pointing one manicured finger at her chest. "I was just walking to the store." Marcus approached his car door, his stomach already tight. There it was, a thin white line running down the driver's side from the handle nearly to the rear panel. His jaw clenched. The car was only 6 months old. He'd financed it himself, working overtime, and his wife loved it almost as much as he did. "I saw you," Marcus said, trying to keep his voice steady. "You scraped my car with your purse or something." The woman's expression shifted. The false innocence vanished, replaced by something colder. "I don't know what you're talking about," she said flatly. "And frankly, I don't appreciate the accusation." "It's not an accusation, Marcus took a breath. "Look, I saw it happen. You were literally right here. And I was literally walking to the store," the woman said, her voice taking on a theatrical quality. "If you want to make something of a scratch that was probably already there, that's your problem, not mine." The sentence landed like a punch. Already there? Marcus had washed and waxed this car 3 days ago. He knew every inch of it. His hands were shaking now, partly from anger, partly from something else. The frustration of being gaslit in broad daylight. "Can we just exchange information?" Marcus tried, his tone softer now, attempting diplomacy. "I'm not trying to be difficult. It was an accident, I'm sure. Let's just—" "Accident?" The woman laughed, a brittle sound that made several other shoppers turn their heads. "You're blaming me for a scratch on your mediocre car? This is harassment. I'm going to call the police." "Call them," Marcus said, hearing his own voice harden. "And maybe we can show them the video from my dashcam?" He regretted the words instantly. Not because they weren't true, his dashcam had been running the entire time, but because of what it would unleash. The woman's face went very still. Her eyes narrowed to slits. "Did you just threaten to—" "It's not a threat. It's a record of what happened. You know what?" The woman reached into her purse and pulled out her phone with theatrical flourish. "My lawyer is going to have such a field day with this. You just admitted to recording me without my consent. Do you understand what that makes you? A criminal. I'm calling the police right now, and then I'm calling my attorney. By the time he's finished with you, you'll be bankrupt." She was dialing before Marcus could respond. He watched, bewildered, as she pressed the phone to her ear and began speaking loudly about being harassed and threatened in a public parking lot by an aggressive man with a dashcam who was clearly unstable. Within minutes, a police cruiser pulled into the parking lot. The officer who emerged was professional but tired. The look of someone who'd been called to settle 100 parking lot disputes and was not particularly excited about dispute number 101. He walked them through the basics, names, insurance information, what each claimed had happened. The woman, who introduced herself as Karen Whitmore, repeated her story with the certainty of someone who'd never been contradicted successfully. She hadn't touched his car. The scratch was almost certainly pre-existing, and now this gentleman was trying to intimidate her into paying for damage she didn't cause. "I have dashcam footage," Marcus said quietly. The officer's eyes shifted. Karen's face went absolutely white. He's recording everything," Karen said, her voice taking on a desperate edge. "That's invasion of privacy. You can arrest him for—" "Dashcams are completely legal," the officer said, producing his own phone. "Want to show me what you've got?" Marcus logged into the cloud backup on his phone and pulled up the footage. He handed it over. The officer's expression didn't change as he watched. 5 seconds. 10. 30. The video was crystal clear. The parking lot, Karen walking past, her hand coming up deliberately, the purse making contact with the car door, the deliberate scraping motion. No ambiguity. No room for interpretation. When the officer looked back up, Karen was already backing away, shaking her head. That's doctored," she stammered. "You can doctor videos. I'm calling my lawyer." "You do that," the officer said calmly, handing the phone back to Marcus. "But ma'am, I just watched video evidence of you deliberately damaging this vehicle. I should cite you for vandalism." "No, you don't understand," Karen said, her voice becoming almost pleading now. "I'm the victim here. He's been threatening me. The only threat here is the vandalism on the video," the officer said. "Mr. Marcus here has your information. You can work it out with his insurance company, or we can do this the formal way." Karen's face cycled through a series of emotions: rage, panic, and finally, something that looked almost like desperation. She opened her mouth, closed it, then turned and walked toward her Mercedes, but before she reached it, she spun back around. "You haven't seen the last of me," she said, pointing at Marcus. "You think you're so smart with your little camera? My lawyer will see that you tampered with the evidence. I'll have you sued for defamation if you claim I tampered with clear video evidence of something you did," the officer interrupted mildly. "That might be something to discuss with said lawyer before you go shouting it in a public parking lot." Karen's face went from white to purple. She climbed into her Mercedes without another word, and the spray of gravel as she peeled out of her parking space was almost satisfying. The officer handed Marcus back his phone. "You got lucky," he said. "Most of these disputes, it's he said, she said. You had proof." Marcus nodded numbly, watching the cream-colored Mercedes disappear into the afternoon traffic. He'd won. The dash cam had caught everything. Justice served, case closed. He had no idea that this was only the beginning. 3 weeks later, Marcus sat in his living room staring at the legal documents spread across the coffee table. They were printed on thick cream-colored paper with fancy letterhead. Whitmore and Associates Legal Defense. The kind of documents designed to intimidate just by existing. His wife, Sarah, sat beside him, her hand on his shoulder, reading over his anxiety. "She's suing you for $250,000, Sarah said quietly, her voice hollow. "Emotional distress, privacy violation, defamation of character." "Defamation?" Marcus laughed, but it came out bitter. "The video shows exactly what happened." "How is showing the truth defamation?" "It says here she's claiming the video was doctored and you released it publicly to damage her reputation and business interests," Sarah read, scrolling through the PDF on her laptop. "And that recording her in public without consent—" "Dash cams are legal," Marcus interrupted, though he'd already Googled this 5 times since receiving the letter. "Every lawyer I've looked at says they're completely legal." "I know," Sarah said, squeezing his shoulder. But apparently Karen's lawyer doesn't agree. Or doesn't care. Marcus had been trying not to think about the money. $250,000. That was more than they had saved. That was their daughter's college fund. That was the down payment on the house they'd been planning to buy next year. That was everything. He'd called an attorney immediately, a real one, not just internet research. The consultation had cost $500 and lasted 40 minutes. The attorney, a woman named Linda Torres with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, had reviewed the dashcam footage and the legal complaint in silence. "This is a frivolous lawsuit," she'd finally said, removing her glasses. "But that doesn't mean it won't cost you money to defend against it." Even to win, we're looking at legal fees in the range of $10,000 to $15,000. Potentially more if this goes to trial. Marcus had felt the room tilt slightly. Can she actually win? He'd asked. No, Linda had said firmly. Not with this evidence. Not with dashcam footage that's completely legal and irrefutable. But winning isn't free. I wanted you to understand that going in. Now, a week after hiring Linda, Marcus was trying to focus on work. He was a project manager for a commercial construction company, a job that required concentration and attention to detail, two things that had completely abandoned him. His boss, Derek, had called him into his office on Wednesday. Everything okay? Derek had asked, closing the door. You seem distracted. Marcus had considered lying, but there was no point. Derek was fair. He'd understand. I'm being sued, Marcus had said simply, over a parking lot incident. It's going to take up some of my time and mental energy for a while. Derek's expression had shifted, not dramatically, but noticeably. His friendliness had cooled by a degree or two. What kind of incident? He'd asked carefully. A woman deliberately scratched my car. I have it on dashcam video. She's claiming I doctored it and damaged her reputation. Ah, Derek had said. That sounds complicated. The conversation hadn't ended badly, but it had ended differently than Marcus had hoped. Derek had said something about hoping it got resolved quickly and that productivity was important during the busy season. The implication was clear enough. Legal drama was bad for the company image. Now it was Friday evening and Marcus was sitting in his living room wondering if his life was about to implode over a stupid scratch on a car door. His phone rang. Linda Torres. I have an update, she said without preamble. Karen's lawyer just sent over a discovery request. It's extensive. They want your phone records, your email, financial statements, your dashcam footage in multiple formats, the recording device specifications, maintenance records for your vehicle, basically everything they can demand to try to build a case that the video is fake. Is that normal? Marcus asked, though he already knew the answer. It's a fishing expedition, Linda said bluntly. They're hoping to find something, anything, that makes the video look questionable or that they can use to intimidate you into settling. Settling, Marcus repeated. She's asking for $250,000. She's asking for $250,000, Linda agreed. But settlements are negotiated. There's a decent chance their opening demand is inflated to give themselves room to come down. That said, she paused. I wanted to give you a heads up. In cases like these, sometimes the plaintiff will contact you directly, try to pressure you into settling before the legal process really gets rolling. I'd advise you not to engage. Any communication should go through me. Marcus was about to respond when Sarah nudged him and pointed at the television. The local news was on, and there was Karen's face on the screen. Can you turn it up? Marcus asked Linda. Give me 1 second. He didn't wait for an answer. He grabbed the remote and turned up the volume. And that's why I'm speaking out, Karen was saying to the news camera, sitting in what looked like her home office, all leather and mahogany. Behind her was a framed college diploma. Men like this use technology to harass and intimidate women in our community. He's trying to ruin my reputation and my business because I dared to stand up to him in a parking lot. I have a right to my privacy, and I have a right not to be recorded without consent. Marcus felt something cold slide down his spine. Is she on the news? Sarah whispered. And the worst part, Karen continued, her voice taking on a quavering quality that Marcus was certain was completely fake, is that when I tried to resolve this civilly, he escalated. He publicized that video to damage me. I have clients who won't work with me now. I've received hate mail, all because I'm a woman who won't let a man push me around. The news anchor nodded sympathetically. And you're pursuing legal action? I have to, Karen said. For myself, and for every woman watching who's been harassed and recorded without consent. The segment ended. Marcus stared at the blank screen. Linda, he said, his voice sounding distant to his own ears. I saw it, Linda said quietly. She's going for a media campaign. Classic strategy in these cases. Try to win in the court of public opinion to pressure a settlement. She just lied to 30,000 people, Marcus said flatly. She deliberately scratched my car. I have video proof, and she just told everyone I'm the aggressor." "I know," Linda said. "Welcome to why civil litigation is so expensive. This is going to get messier before it gets better." Marcus hung up after agreeing to provide all requested documentation by Monday. He sat in silence, the television droning on with other local news stories, city council meetings, a ribbon cutting at a new restaurant, normal life happening for normal people. His phone buzzed. A text from his mother, who'd apparently seen the news segment. "Sweetheart, is this true? Are you recording women without permission?" Another text came through. Then another. His mother's sister. His cousin. His aunt, all asking variations of the same question. The implications sinking in like poison. Sarah was already on her laptop, scrolling through something. Her face was pale. "Don't," Marcus said. "Whatever you're reading, don't." "It's on Reddit," she said quietly. "Someone posted the news segment. There are already 200 comments. Mostly people defending you, but—" She turned the laptop away. "There are some saying you're a creep who uses dashcams to spy on women. That you planted the video. That you deserve to be sued." Marcus stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the neighborhood looked exactly the same as it always did. Trees, houses, cars, and driveways. Nothing had changed, and everything had changed simultaneously. His phone buzzed again. This time it was Derek from work. "Hey man, just a heads up. Some clients saw the news story. Nothing serious. Just wanted to give you a heads up that we might take some heat. Just keep your head down, okay?" Translation: You're becoming a liability. Marcus realized in that moment that Karen had executed a perfect tactical move. She didn't have to win the lawsuit to win. She just had to make his life difficult enough to force a settlement. She'd gone on the news and reframed the narrative. She'd made him the aggressor, the creep, the man with a dashcam who records women. The truth didn't matter once the story took hold. He'd been so focused on the legality of his dashcam that he hadn't anticipated she would simply lie to the media and make it stick. His phone rang again. This time it was the construction company's HR department asking him to take a personal week while things settled down. End of cliffhanger beat. Marcus hung up in a daze. They were sending him home. His boss thought he was a problem that needed to disappear. As he stared at his phone, a new email notification popped up. Karen's lawyer had upped the lawsuit demand to $500,000, citing additional emotional distress caused by public humiliation. She wasn't trying to settle anymore. She was trying to destroy him, and somehow it was working. Part 3. The investigation. Marcus was supposed to use his personal week to relax, decompress, and presumably disappear from public consciousness. Instead, he spent it in his basement with his laptop, consumed by something that Linda had warned him against: obsessive research. He wasn't looking for legal loopholes anymore. He was looking for answers. For something. Anything that would explain how Karen had become so brazen, so certain that she could lie on camera and suffer no consequences. Sarah found him at 2 a.m. on Tuesday, surrounded by empty coffee cups and printed screenshots. "Marcus, you need to sleep," she said, her voice heavy with worry. "I can't," he said, not looking up from the screen. "Look at this." He pulled up the news segment again, the one where Karen sat in her mahogany office, her face arranged in practiced concern. "I noticed something." "In the background," Sarah leaned closer. Behind Karen was a diploma frame, yes, but also something else. A photo on her desk. Marcus zoomed in. It was Karen with another woman at what looked like a charity gala. But it was the woman's face that had caught Marcus's attention. He'd seen it before. In a Reddit thread about frivolous lawsuits, and in a Facebook group about aggressive plaintiff tactics, he'd spent the last 6 hours down a rabbit hole. "Her name is Jennifer Marks," Marcus said, pulling up another browser tab. "She's a litigation consultant. She specializes in something called media-driven settlements. Basically, she helps plaintiffs manufacture public outrage to pressure defendants into settling." Sarah's face went pale. "You think Karen hired her?" "Look at the timestamps on Karen's social media," Marcus said, pulling up her Instagram. Before the parking lot incident, she barely posted. Generic stuff about yoga and brunch. Then suddenly, after the news segment, she's posting stories about women's rights, about predatory behavior, about the importance of privacy. Very on brand for someone being coached by a professional. Marcus, Sarah started, but he was already moving to his next discovery. There's more. Karen's lawyer, the one sending all these demand letters? His name is Richard Whitmore, same last name as Karen. I thought it might be a coincidence, but look, they went to law school together. They're connected on LinkedIn. And here's the interesting part. Richard has a history of losing cases but settling them for huge sums. 11 settlements in the last 5 years, all of them on frivolous claims, all of them resulting in payments to his clients. That doesn't necessarily mean, Sarah tried again. There's a pattern, Marcus interrupted, and he could hear the edge in his own voice. Richard represents people who have dubious claims. They go public. Jennifer Marks coaches them on media presence and narrative. The defendant gets hit with social pressure and legal fees they can't afford. They settle. Everyone except the defendant wins. He pulled up a spreadsheet he'd been building. 11 cases. 11 settlements averaging $200,000 each. 4 of them had gone completely viral on social media. In every single case, the defendant had been portrayed as a predator, a creep, a threat to society. She's done this before, Marcus said quietly. This isn't personal. It's a business model. Sarah sat down slowly in the office chair beside him. What are you going to do with this? I don't know yet, Marcus admitted. But Linda needs to see it. He didn't sleep that night. Instead, he kept digging, kept connecting dots. By dawn, he'd compiled a comprehensive report with links, screenshots, social media archives, court documents. It painted a clear picture. Karen Whitmore wasn't a victimized woman standing up for her rights. She was a repeat player in a coordinated scheme designed to exploit the legal system and public sympathy. The problem was, he still had no proof that Karen knew what she was doing. She could genuinely believe she was the victim. That made her useful to Richard and Jennifer, an authentic-seeming plaintiff rather than an obvious con. He called Linda at 8 a.m. I need to show you something, he said. They met at her office an hour later. Linda reviewed everything in silence, her lawyer's eyes scanning through the material Marcus had compiled. When she looked up, her expression was different. Not just professionally interested, genuinely concerned. This is good work, she said carefully, but it's also potentially dangerous. Dangerous how? If Karen's lawyer finds out you've been investigating her litigation consultant and building a case against their methodology, they could claim you're harassing Karen further. They could argue you're obsessing over her, conducting unauthorized investigations, that this proves your aggressive behavior. It becomes more ammunition for them. Marcus felt something collapse inside his. I didn't say that, Linda said. She was already on her phone, making notes. But we need to be strategic. These are leads, not evidence. We can't accuse Karen of fraud or claim she's part of a scheme without rock-solid proof. What we can do is use this information to guide our defense strategy. How? Discovery, Linda said. We request communications between Karen and Jennifer Marks. We subpoena Richard Whitmore's financial records. We get his email correspondence with Karen. We look at his previous cases and settlements. We build the record systematically through legal channels where it can actually be used. How long will that take? Months, Linda said bluntly. Maybe longer. Marcus stood up and walked to the window of Linda's office. From here, he could see downtown, the construction sites, the normal business of normal people going about their lives. He wondered how many of them were involved in schemes like this. How many people were getting destroyed by coordinated manipulation while courts and media watched? There's something else, Linda said quietly. I did some checking yesterday after the demand increase. Karen's Mercedes was registered 3 months ago. It's a 2024 model, $60,000 vehicle. Her business, she claims to run an executive coaching firm, has an address that's a mailbox. No physical location, no employees, no clients that I can find listed anywhere. Marcus turned back. What are you saying? I'm saying that Karen may not be as financially desperate as her lawsuit suggests. $50,000 cars don't usually belong to people genuinely distressed about scratches. And the business address thing makes me wonder if there is an actual business at all, or if that's just part of the infrastructure for this scheme. So she's lying about everything. Maybe, Linda said. Or maybe she's a tool being used by smarter people. Jennifer Marks coaches her on the narrative. Richard handles the legal mechanics. Karen plays the victim. It's a clean division of labor. Karen probably believes her own story by now. That's what makes her effective. Over the next 2 weeks, Linda filed discovery requests. Karen's lawyer pushed back hard, claiming many of the requests were irrelevant, harassing, designed to intimidate his client. But the judge, a practical woman named Sandra Kowalski, who'd apparently seen her share of litigation nonsense, ruled that several of the requests were valid. The email correspondence started. Arriving in late October, Marcus wasn't supposed to see them first, but Linda called him at home. Her voice tight. "Don't panic," she said. "But I need to tell you what we just received before you see it in the news cycle." "What?" "Karen's emails with Jennifer Marks. There are dozens of them. Coaching sessions on how to present herself on camera. Advice about which media outlets would be most sympathetic. Discussion of the settlement range they should be targeting. And here's the key part. Jennifer sent Karen a checklist, an actual template for handling social media sympathy generation. It's labeled Standard Protocol for Plaintiff Narrative Development. Marcus couldn't breathe. "There's more," Linda continued. Karen forwarded Jennifer's emails to Richard. He responded with his own notes about the settlement strategy. Direct quotes, target defendant's employment. Create financial pressure. Media attention should soften them up within 3 to 4 weeks. Then we negotiate down from the initial demand, and they'll accept anything that makes the pressure stop. That's conspiracy, Marcus said. That's fraud. It's systematic, Linda agreed, and it's documented. Richard may have assumed Karen's emails were privileged, that they wouldn't be discoverable. He didn't anticipate that Jennifer Marks, who is not his client and therefore not covered by attorney-client privilege, would be included in the chain. "What do we do?" "We have options," Linda said. "We can file a motion to dismiss based on fraud in the inducement. We can countersue for abuse of process. We can report this to the State Bar and the FTC. We can also go public, but that's risky because they'll immediately claim we're the ones harassing them." Marcus sat in silence, processing this. "But here's the thing," Linda said quietly. "Once we make this move, we're all in. We're accusing them of fraud. They'll fire back hard. Their strategy has been to destroy you socially and financially. Our strategy will be to destroy their credibility. It gets ugly." "It's already ugly," Marcus said. "It gets uglier," Linda corrected. "They'll dig into your past. They'll find anything. College girlfriends, financial problems, therapy you've been to, anything that can be twisted into a narrative about you. They'll make this personal in ways that go way beyond a parking lot scratch." Marcus thought about Sarah, about his daughter, about the life they'd built. He thought about Derek at work sending him home. He thought about his mother asking if he was recording women. He thought about the Reddit threads, the comments, the implications. Cliffhanger beat. 3 days later, Linda filed the fraud motion. Within hours, Karen's lawyer responded with a public statement. "My client is shocked and horrified by Mr. Chen's desperate attempt to smear her character with baseless conspiracy theories. This is exactly the kind of aggressive intimidation we've been warning about." The news outlets picked it up immediately, but this time something was different. Instead of depicting Marcus as a villain, the story was, "Man accuses woman of coordinated legal fraud, files countersuit." The narrative was shifting, and that's when Karen made her fatal mistake. She went on camera again to defend herself, and this time, she contradicted the email evidence so completely that it was undeniable. The second news interview aired on a Thursday evening. This time, Karen wasn't sitting in her home office. She was at a television studio across from an investigative reporter named Tom Chen. No relation to Marcus, but Marcus found the symmetry darkly amusing. Tom had the emails, all of them, and he'd made the decision that journalism demanded. He was going to confront Karen with evidence. Marcus watched from his living room with Sarah pressed against his side. His phone was already blowing up, people sending him clips asking if he was watching, warning him that this was about to get messy. "In your emails with Jennifer Marks, Tom was saying, his voice professionally neutral. You discuss what you call settlement ranges and talk about timing. Specifically, you write, 3 to 4 weeks should be enough to create sufficient financial pressure. Can you explain what you meant by that? Karen's face cycled through several emotions in quick succession. Shock, anger, calculation. Then she settled on wounded confusion. I don't know what you're talking about, she said firmly. Those emails aren't real. They've been doctored, just like Mr. Chen doctored that parking lot video. Tom set down a printed copy of the email chain on the desk between them. These are court documents. Produced through the discovery process, they're authenticated by the court. Would you like to read this one here, where you write to Richard Whitmore? We should hit him hard in the media first, make it harder for his employer to keep him. I never said that, Karen said, but her voice had changed. Quieter, defensive. It's right here, Tom said, tapping the page. Your email address, authenticated by the court system. Your station is helping him, Karen said, her eyes narrowing. This is a coordinated attack. I'm being victimized again. Tom leaned back. Mrs. Whitmore, I want to ask you about your business. Executive coaching. Can you tell me about your current clients? My business is private because according to public records, your business address is a mailbox at a UPS store. There are no business licenses filed. There are no employees listed. There are no online reviews. We called every business in your area and nobody seems to have heard of you or received coaching from you. Can you explain that? Karen's jaw clenched. I operate digitally. I work with private clients who value discretion. Private clients you never mention by name? Who leave no trace? Who seem to not exist? I don't have to explain my business practices to you, Karen said sharply. This interview is over? She stood up. Tom didn't try to stop her. He just looked at the camera. We attempted to verify multiple claims made by Mrs. Whitmore in her initial media appearances. We could not verify any of them. We could not find any evidence of her business. We could not find any of the clients who supposedly stopped working with her due to Mr. Chen's actions. What we did find was a pattern. Mrs. Whitmore's attorney, Richard Whitmore, has represented 12 clients in the past 6 years in similar cases. All of them made public accusations against defendants. 11 of those cases resulted in settlements. None of them went to trial. In every case, discovery revealed similar coaching from a litigation consultant. This is an investigative report from Tom Chen Channel.